As a visionary, do you ever wonder how to bring out the best in people, to motivate them, inspire them, and support them to do their very best work? You can imagine what a deal breaker this is for your team, your organization, or your movement. And it's such a deal breaker that today's guest on the League of Visionaries podcast has built a successful international business around the art and science of bringing out the best in people. Meet David Sand, the founder and chairman of Uwin Iwin Performance Incentives. David is a compelling keynote speaker who walks his talk. A respected leader, entrepreneur, and authority on performance incentives, David's life and work embody his message. He is a man of heart and action, on stage as much as in person. As founder and chairman of the acclaimed Uwin Iwin Performance Incentives, David has led his team and clients to international success. He is a past president of the global organization SITE, the Society for Incentive Travel Excellence. He is a recipient of the IMA Award for Excellence and IMEX Academy Award for his outstanding contribution to his industry. His first book, The Song of the Sandman, thoughtfully documents his journey with valuable lessons from leadership and life. And within its first week of publication, it rose straight to the top of the Amazon rankings in his categories. David also serves as a trustee for the Duke of Edinburgh's International Award Foundation's The President's Award in South Africa, and chairman of the Scouts South Africa Bryanston First Chapter. Members of David's influential international network know him as a trusted advisor, a passionate motivator, and an exceptional golfing companion. But what stands out most is David's values as a leader, a family man, and above all, a man of faith. David's keynotes galvanize audiences with not only inspiration, but also the actionable steps to enhance the way they perform, lead, and live. In this episode of the League of Visionaries podcast, we get to know David and learn from his extensive experience, expertise, and his deep wisdom. Welcome to the League of Visionaries podcast by Yazi Media. This is your place to meet visionaries, professionals, experts, and entrepreneurs driven by a deeper purpose to live their legacy. This podcast is for you if you too are a visionary driven by a deeper purpose in your work, your play, and your investments. I'm your host, Marie Leroux, the media strategist to visionaries, speaker, and founder and owner of Yazi Media Virtual Media House. My mission is to empower professionals, experts, and entrepreneurs to share their visionary message with the world. Connect with this League of Visionaries to explore the power of a purpose and how to bring it to the world in each episode. This season of the League of Visionaries podcast is brought to you by Totally Morpheus, creators of the Egg 3 Leadership Assessment. It's fast, it's fun, it's free, and it points the way to your living leadership legacy. David, it's such a pleasure to have a chance to chat with you in depth about the amazing things that you do and learn a little bit more about it, because I've been hearing a lot about your work on getting people more engaged, getting better results from people. I've heard that people say you can motivate a crowd like nobody's business. And I'd love to hear what are the secrets behind it. But let's begin with your angle of how do you keep people engaged, motivated, and performing at their very best?
Hi, Marie. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast. The League of Visionaries, I think, is a wonderful title, and it's an honor to be considered in that way. So thank you very much. Yeah, the motivating people, it's really a passion of mine to, let's say, not motivate too much, but to inspire. I think a lot of motivation really is an inward outward journey, but we can do certain things in the world of work that inspires and helps people deliver their very, very best. And that's really what Uwin Iwin is all about. Many years when I founded the business, it was on the basis of coming out of a corporate environment that was, it was sad in many respects, in that we had just had to go through a massive retrenchment exercise, and so many wonderful relationships were completely destroyed in that process from a work point of view. And there were things that I observed as a young man in those businesses that I had joined in the early days that really said to me, there's got to be a better way of inspiring and managing people. So Uwin Iwin was really born with the intention of helping businesses and business leaders to change the dynamic of things in the workplace, to make working spaces more inspiring.
That's really quite a goal to have. And I'm sure it was a noble goal at the time when you started with this, but you had no idea what we were in for as the world went through this massive transformation of the past few years. And when the world shut down in 2020, a whole new dimension of keeping people involved, keeping people committed, and keeping people just kind of happy became a whole new challenge, because suddenly people were ripped away from their normal work environment and thrown into a remote working environment without any preparation for it. And for so many people, it meant just not being able to find their feet quite yet. This has become such a hot topic since then. And one of the big topics that are in demand at the moment is employee engagement. Now, you said it's a lot broader than that. Why is it more than just employee engagement?
The term employee engagement certainly does capture a lot of things. The COVID times has accelerated the focus on people wellness at work and dealing with radical changes and shifts in our bigger universe. So employee engagement, really at the heart of it, is you want people to come to work and engage in the mission and vision of the business. So there's a lot in that. One has to know, the business has to be clear about where they're going and what their values are and what the mission is, so that they can articulate that to people in the business to hopefully come along on the journey and add their bit of magic and spark to that business's goals. But then once you have a level of commitment to a working function within the business, people go through different levels of engagement. Think of yourself, for example, on any one given task that you have to do. You can wake up in the morning feeling very enthusiastic. By lunchtime, you just want to throw it all out the window. And by the evening time, you've got something else that's added a little bit of spark and put you back on course. So human beings are these organic, amazingly dynamic creatures. And of course, from a business point of view, you want people to work, and deliver the very high standard all the time. And these things are not always achievable. So if you are prepared to accept that within any day, any given person, any task, there are going to be these myriad of combinations, efficiency or engagement. So how do you then create a leadership culture, a working understanding that then deals with this level of complexity, because it really is complex? The starting point is wanting to understand it. So many leaders, unfortunately, today are still gung-ho on the idea, well, I pay them a salary and they have to give of their best, almost like a slave contract. And that's not the way the world works today. And it certainly doesn't work in a punitive environment where if they don't do it, I'm going to bring out the disciplinary process and procedure and whack people over the head for not doing it well.
The carrot and the stick, right? I know that in your book you spoke about the possibility of the carrot even as a part of the name of an incentive business,
Yes.
looking more at rewards than at punishment.
Yes.
But it is more complex even than that.
Indeed. So, the space to start off for me was empowering management with a tool that helps them catch people doing it right versus catching people doing it wrong. Okay. So this was something that I learned from Ken Blanchard, a famous management leadership expert. He said, focus on catching people doing it right and recognize them. And once you instill that kind of mind shift within corporate managers from the very first rung of management, which is supervisory, to lower level management, mid-management, senior management, right up through. When you start making that mind shift as an organization, catching people doing it right is a far more productive way in dealing with this dynamic situation. Then adding on top of that a reward set. So every now and again, it's not just a pat on the back, well done, Marie, for doing a great job. It's well done, you did a great job, it added huge value to our business, and we want to share some of the value that you added to our business with you, because you made that extra value happen. There's a financial equation involved, and hence the incentive or the reward that then says, here it is, there's something extra in it for you. We as a business have won. Now you as an individual needs to feel the winning feeling as well, and provide a financial equation there. So really that's how the name Uwin Iwin came about, creating winning solutions for you, the company. How? By creating winning opportunities for individuals within the business or the wider business network that people operate in.
So that win-win approach is really something that has been part of the winning formula of Uwin Iwin that has gone on to expand internationally. And we'll be talking more about the process of how you built this company from a dream and what might have seemed like a bit of a wild idea at the time into something that is now really trend-setting and that has done so much from a human level, but also from a technology level. I love the way that you've combined the two, but you have built your motto on that, keep winning. And that is really something that has kept your company and the people in it like buoyed to really catch that winning feeling. And at your client event that we were lucky enough to attend recently, it was incredible to see how this actually works in a team and what the effect is of building a culture like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think what we do is not a silver bullet solution. And that goes back to your question earlier of the engagement thing. But when you start then building in to that mix, things like conscious leadership training and development, which I know my good friend Ian Hatton is all about. When you start adding in employee value propositions that take care of the situations where somebody is traumatized and they have then access to a good counselor, that kind of thing. Then you're starting to really understand a human dynamic that and a place of safety in the workplace where people will just by being there want to do well and want to become a winner. And winning is not the Machiavellian approach of win at all costs and there's only one winner and the rest are losers. This is a very fundamental principle of how we do recognition and reward in the workplace. Because at the end of the day, you're a tribe. You're a tribe of people that are trying to be successful around your brand, your business proposition. And that tribe needs to all feel it. The old adage that you're only as good as your weakest link. Well, if you really process that one, you understand that we need to raise all the boats and not just the top achievers, not just the high flyers. Everybody needs to come up. That's really important in what we do and advise businesses on as well.
That's incredible. But the most exciting part of it to me is actually having a company where the team demonstrates the value of what you do. It's the strongest advertisement anybody will ever have is what people see about the company when people go home at night, what they're saying about their job to other people in their lives, and really seeing that spirit alive in your team of really winning and creating the win for people was really inspiring. So hats off to all of you, because that is leadership, but it's also a team effort in the end.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we've got some amazing people that work in our team. Some of them have been with us for many years, and others are recently joined us because we're on a growth spurt at the moment. But that's sort of fundamentally, I always say to our team, if a customer walked in here and they didn't feel an energetic, driven vibe about who we are as a business, then how could we possibly advise them on those parameters as well? And it just brings up a point around human energy. Human energy is the most precious form of energy on the planet. One could argue that the sun and the wind and the moon and the natural resources are precious, and they absolutely are. I'm so glad that we're entering an age where we look after our planet, and there's lots to be done on that score. But human energy, when channeled and when unleashed, is a phenomenal thing. I often walk into these amazing cities around the world and look at a beautiful building and think, how did that happen? It happened. Somebody had a dream, they drew it down, they turned it into architectural drawings. Hundreds and thousands of people may have worked on that structure. And there it is, it stands today as a testimony to all those people that are involved, right?
Yes, and architecture is a beautiful metaphor for leadership, because it begins with that vision and the blueprint, and then really actually making it happen. And a lot of hands have got to get involved to make it happen. And if the plan is not rock solid, the building doesn't stand. So lots of philosophical food for thought there. But now you mentioned something about this. A team is only as strong as its weakest link, and how your team has been growing. Now, that begs the question, because for somebody who begins an organization and handpicks their team members, that's a lovely position to be in. We make our own choices. We may make our own mistakes on the people and the way we nurture them. But for leaders who inherit a team, they often say, well, this is the team I inherited, and they may or may not be pleased with it. So when it comes to, you say, not motivating, but inspiring people, what do you believe is the way to take somebody who happens to be on a team where maybe they're not doing their best as an individual, they might be that weakest link? What do you do with that individual? I'll just throw you the difficult questions, David.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, sure. I think, it is a difficult one. I always ascribe to the sort of bell curve of normality in an organization. You're going to have the top 20, the vital 70, and you're going to have the tail end 10%ers that are either the wrong fit for business, or through whatever circumstances, they're no longer interested in giving their best. And despite various different interventions, they're still not interested. So, I think that then comes to a point of, well, would you like to go and rather make your magic elsewhere? And there's a whole, process and procedure around that. But I think fundamentally, I believe every single human being has goodness inside their hearts. So how does one tap into the good in a potential bad apple in the box? That is always a leadership and managerial challenge. But I think, it does happen, and it will continue to happen, that you don't get those kind of interventions right. But very often those people then go on to make successes of themselves in other environments. So, yeah, we're not going to fix everything, and we certainly can't fix a human being. A human being wants to be fixed, and they want to go on the journey, inward journey of self-improvement, or they don't. That's just one of the truths.
Yes, it's a very big challenge, and it's one that I had to face on a very small basis recently, just working with new recruits and trying everything. And I really, really, really wanted to make this work. And it was a tremendous struggle for me to go through the process of how many times am I going to blame myself when things keep going wrong? Because there are several approaches to take, but I love the way that you say, maybe you can make your magic in another place, because not everybody is the exact fit for a specific position. Sure. And trying to fit a square peg into a round hole is not going to make it a round peg ever.
I know. But look,
so helping them find the right hole, I suppose that's the thing to do.
Indeed. Now look, and big-hearted people like yourself and myself, we always believe that we can make a huge difference, and we can get the best out of people, and most of the times we can. But the odd occasion where you try and it's not successful, and clearly that other person isn't engaged in a process of wanting to improve, then it's time for them to move on. But one needs to make sure that process is done humanely. I'm very glad that we have some of the best labor laws in the world when it comes to protecting employee rights. I think many business owners believe it's too onerous, but I don't. I believe that the law, the way it sets up to protect employees, is correct. You have to do it by the book. You have to have proper process. There has to be substantive fairness involved in everything, and that's important. And the humane aspect to that process is equally important.
It's very good to hear a business leader speaking of the labor law in that way, because as you say, it certainly can be onerous. It's a lot of paperwork, most definitely. There are a lot of responsibilities, probably even more towards the employer than the employee, certainly in South African labor law. But it definitely does help us all to make sure that we take good care of things. In South Africa, it might be driving people towards alternative business models where they would rather work with contractors than employ people. But that opens up a whole new area for conversation. And then the onus is on the contractor. So it's an evolution for all of us. They're very, very fascinating. Then, David, you've done something very intriguing in Uwin Iwin, because it's all about people. But you have leveraged technology in some very novel ways. I only understand a very small inkling of it, but maybe you can tell us a little bit of an overview of how you make use of things like your cards, where people can actually pluck up their points and they can make use of converting these. Basically, you have a lovely name for it, right? The kudosh. Points and actually turning it into something that is of actual value to the employee. But also you have made use of things like technology, applications, all these kinds of things to really serve the people. I'd love to hear a little bit more in a nutshell that, that people can see where the potential lies for that. I know this is another challenging question. I'm not letting you off the hook today.
No problem. No, I'm glad you brought that up. I think technology today is so integral part of our lives. And no, I think there's a huge expectation, certainly the younger generation, but even the generation that's my age, is that everything needs to be digitally seamless, easy to use, and easy to transact on. What we were fortunate, I had this crazy idea of becoming a .com millionaire. And back in the day when the .com was birthed effectively, but in as early as 1999, we had our very first digital incentive reward platform that was built in South Africa by myself and a team of developers. And this has obviously gone through many, many iterations, and today it's in a very vastly different space to where we started. But effectively, it really is a user-friendly reward platform that anybody receiving a reward can know what rewards they have, when they have been earned, what's the next reward level that they need to strive for, and when they have receipted the reward, they can easily transact it. I'm sure you've had the frustration of trying to transact your Voyager miles or your airline frequent flyer points, and it's so complicated and it's so difficult, and it's taking that kind of frustration out of the process for the user. But beyond that, we've also created a very cool way of users self-administrating their performance milestones. So for example, in the sales arena, where somebody sells something to a customer and that person is now in somewhere in the world, and they need to then claim that sale as part of their point earnings, they can do that by scanning an invoice. There are multiple ways of doing it, by putting in a unique product identifier, and they can claim, I've sold this thing on today's date, and now I would like to receive my sales incentive for that action. And so making administrative efficiencies into sales programs really efficient, giving the participant a feeling of ownership of the program, and they drive the reward process themselves. I'm doing the right thing. I've made the claim, and then I instantaneously get the reward because I've then done the sale, done the admin, got the reward. And it makes programs go fast. And we're living in a go fast technology world. So that's another huge advantage of the technology. But more so than that, I spoke about the tribe earlier. The tribe, whether it's direct employees or second tier employees, and by that I mean very often people that sell product to an end customer are not employed by the company. They are shop assistants, they are insurance agents, they are retail people, and we call that the channel or the second phase employee group. But those people that make an impact for your business and your product sales, they are your tribe, and you need an easy way to talk to the tribe, right? And you need an easy way for them to interact with each other. And that's what technology allows people to do so well. And you think of the best apps in the world, like Facebook. It's a community-driven platform where people can exchange views, ideas, photographs, etc., etc. And we've built some of those functionalities into our own platform. where it becomes a bespoke, ring-fenced, not open to public, but only open to those people in the tribe. And they can do the same thing. They can see who's leading. They can see a message from the CEO or video or photo, or it's a communication platform. And that's where the tribe gets its sense of direction. It's where the tribe sees and is able to recognize each other and build an empowering spirit of encouragement for the goals and successes of individual tribe members and team members. So it's a very powerful thing in the whole recognition and reward and incentive space, is to have technology that enables that. Yeah, we're very fortunate to have 23 odd years of experience in that space. And I certainly believe that we were the first in the world to produce that kind of technology. And I've spoken at many conferences around the world about that specific topic and how we interface. And it's interesting that it came from South Africa and not elsewhere in the world. Of course, elsewhere in the world caught up in a heartbeat to what we were doing. And they probably had the show on the road as well in the pipeline at a similar time. So being first is not relevant. Being good at it and honing it over time is. Yeah, but also in the unique African environment, we were the first to integrate with mobile money, for example. So a person can earn rewards or be allocated rewards. And that interface happened with our business in Kenya, where Kenya was the first in the world to come up with mobile payments, a platform called M-Pesa. We have various different forms of that in South Africa. Momo, for example, Vodacom have their own one. And various different banks are playing with that. That's still together, but I think it was 7 or 8 years ago, we were integrated with M-Pesa in East Africa. And when I shared that information with people in the US, they were blown away. And guys in the UK couldn't even believe that we were that far down the line with the digital transformation. So, no, I think the African environment provides us with a huge opportunity to be hugely innovative when it comes to tech development. And it's a big part of what we are, and it's a big part of what we will be in the future. And it also gives us the ability to scale our business in ways that we could never have done otherwise. I've talked about East Africa. We're in, it really, there's no limit. Wherever there's an internet connection, you can put a business or you can service customers.
The African connection is something that has come up on this podcast time and time again, and somehow every time M-Pesa comes up, because it's such an interesting demonstration. You know, people have this conception of Africa still being left in the dark, and the fact is so much is possible here, and there's potential in Africa to leapfrog the problems that the so-called developed world has run into, because, well, we just didn't have the in-between step. We can go straight to the revolution. The telephone is a really good example, because many people around Africa never owned an ordinary landline, but they went straight to the mobile phone. And who knows what's possible, especially when it comes to things like digital currency and incentives, and really motivating people. Because all the technology you're speaking about, it's great tech, but it's the people that make it work. It's the people that make it gel.
Yes, indeed.
It's interesting to see how we all are in a position where if we lead anybody, bringing out the best in them is the way to make things happen. So whether it is with a technology platform or whether it is with simply understanding that buy-in, the sense of tribe that you speak of, and the sense of pride that people have, there's always these elements of what brings out the best in people. And I think that's relevant to every visionary, every leader. And on that topic of leaders, that's the exciting thing that you have maybe accidentally stumbled into to an extent. I don't know if you ever were standing in your corporate shoes long before all of these entrepreneurial visions started taking place and maybe taking over almost. You tell the story in your book that we'll be touching on a bit later of how it was this complete disillusionment almost with the corporate world and how it was not quite able to meet the standards of what you believed would be fair and just in bringing out the best in people in the leadership. And then there was a stirring. Would you like to tell us more about what it was that made you decide, or what made it happen, that made you hear that call to lead?
Yeah. Well, I think I became a leader out of necessity because, I gave myself this title, CEO, quite early on, and it's a hell of a title to give yourself, and nobody ever gave it to you. So you always kind of in the back of your mind think, oh, well, I wonder if I applied for this job, would I get it? And I probably wouldn't. But
you've got a lot of self-employed people listening, so I think we all hear you on that one.
Yeah.
The good thing is you're the one who decides, right?
Yeah, and I think for sometimes people like myself have an imposter syndrome floating somewhere in the back of our minds, whether we really are true leaders or not. But I think I came across a wonderful John Maxwell saying this morning on LinkedIn, and it said, leaders become great not because of their power, but because of their ability to empower others.
Oh, right. Wow.
Yeah. And that's beautiful, because I saw people in the corporate world that abused power and had a lot of power to wield. Embedded in the Uwin Iwin philosophy is the desire, the deep desire, the heart desire to empower others. Whether they are my own employees or whether they are people that I meet randomly or in my wider network of along my journey, is to see the best in people and to see people rise. And I think that I have become a great leader because I embrace that and I try to do that. Am I a great leader? I don't know by what standard is greatness, but I think anyone that believes that and lives that and does that, no matter what they're doing at what level or where they are in the world, is a great leader. That's my my belief. Because, and you can be a great leader and never be in an organization. You can be a mom that raises children to become great. And that is a leadership role in a family context. You don't have to get a salary for that. In fact, you should get a salary for that. But
totally with you, yeah.
Yeah. So, leadership manifests itself everywhere. And we just need to walk in it.
Yeah, that's a very sound answer, because so much of what leadership really calls for in the end is perhaps contradictory to what we're conditioned to believe about it. Very often it's not the limelight, it's the getting other people to shine that really is the thing, or as you say on the John C. Maxwell quote, to empower others. Yes, rather than that power. That's tremendous, David. And then you speak about the role of parenting as a leader, and that's been an important one for you. But I want to preface this with a little story from your book, because there was, I was racing through your book because I wanted to get to the end. I'm not really good with the delayed gratification part of, enjoy the journey. I want to see what happens.
Okay.
But there were a couple of things that slowed me down. And one of them was a demonstration of leadership in your own life. And it might be one of the most impressive feats of event management ever pulled off in the history of man. And that was, you know which one it is. Your perfectly planned wedding had to be reconstructed in from the morning after, right? So you had like 10 hours.
Did read it quickly.
And
No,
I
the
just read that and I thought,
actually,
what a feat of leadership, making that happen.
Well, the building actually was set alight. Some say by a group of my ex-girlfriends. But no, but there was an arson event that happened, and the building went on fire. It didn't completely destroy the building, but after the fire engines and smoke and all that had happened, the venue that we had for our reception was no longer usable. And the long and short of it is we had to do some very quick rearranging, and the time frame was crazy. I woke up in the morning at about 7 o'clock. I went to reception, maybe it was even 8 o'clock, and I found out that this had happened. I thought it was somebody pulling a practical joke on me, but it wasn't. And we had to do some fancy footwork, and we were able to use the venue at the accommodation that I was staying at, bring in my family, and clean floors and reset up. And thankfully, my brother is a chef, and he was able to work with a hotel chef who would never have coped on his own, and buy the food, get it prepared, serve lunch about 3 or 4 hours later. It was an incredible thing. I suppose it was a confidence booster in a way, because a lot of what we do in the delivery of incentive travel, which is where a group of winners get spoiled with this amazing life experience of going away somewhere and being treated as VIP winners, and they go to these amazing places and experience incredible things. It's a sequence of event management activity from morning till noon, sometimes up to 7 days in a row. And so it was a tremendous confidence builder, but it was also, I think, a sign from above to my wife that she had married the right guy.
Well, I have to say, if you can make it through that, the marriage is pretty much rock solid. You know, things are secure. That's a really, really good test to put things through. But it's an incredible story. So you see how my mind dramatized it too. Struck by lightning. It was just that much of a metaphorically, I suppose. But that is incredible. And what also struck me is that the people in your life cared enough about you. You know, that already was just a really impressive thing. But to be able to orchestrate that and, you know, still pull the whole thing off, I thought was leadership is a transferable skill. You take it to everything you do.
Yes.
And that's the one side of it, of course, has been your marriage, and Dorcas is such a phenomenal businesswoman in her own right. And that's really a power partnership. And then you have another leadership role as a father. So as a head of a family, this is a whole different league of leadership, because that is the one that really builds the next generation. But how have you taken on leadership in that realm of your life?
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure. I said to my son on Saturday, do you think I'm too harsh? And he said, yes, I'm too harsh. And I said, I know, I kind of feel that at times. But gee, of all the people in the world, you want your children to do the best. And you want them to not waste a single opportunity that comes their way. And you have these extremely high expectations of them. But I think if I look at my own life and how I grew, I wasn't a superstar at school. I was a naughty boy at school. My mother and father probably spent many evenings on their knees praying for me, and
It worked.
well, I don't know. Yeah, it did. But you know, that's also back to the leadership component of family life is, wow, it teaches patience, and I'm not sure that I'm really the world's best parent to give advice on that, on leadership in families. But I do know one thing for sure is, for me, the number one thing is to be the best example of a man of faith in my household, and to lead from that perspective, because for me, that's the bedrock of everything in life. And to show my sons and my wife a man that is humble before God, and a man that is vulnerable enough to be able to say that I'm sorry, be able to say I blew that one, and a man that's also on a journey of being polished along the life's journey, and to be real with my family about that. And if I can get that right, then I think everything else will hopefully one day also be all right.
Yeah, that's so inspiring. I think we've moved away from an idea of leadership as perfection to one where leadership finds so much power in our own growth process and being open about it, because we serve others so much better when we can say, I messed up, or I'm learning, I'm still learning. And hopefully we all are. I think when we stop learning, that's when we're really in trouble.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, there's no better example for a child to see a parent that's trying, that's walking the talk. I said to my wife, I need to be working as an example for my kids to see what hard work's about. You can tell people about hard work, but they observe a father that's working hard, that's doing the right thing. That's the example. And then hopefully some of that rubs off along the way, and they too will embrace good ethics and good values in their own lives.
Do as I say, don't do as I do just doesn't work that well, especially when it comes to young people, because they're much more likely to imitate what they see. As a parent, did you ever think about the whole incentives drill with your kids?
Yeah, all the time. I think most parents employ incentives of some kind. It's what we do works. So trying to find the currency that's of value to a particular child, like two very different boys. The one currency will be things like digital toys and games and that world. The other one is more inspired by the opportunity to go to a dance lesson or a theater or something like that. And so you can understanding what's important for each person, then you can put the right incentive in play and hopefully change behavior. At the heart of it, behavior change is what incentives are all about. And if you've got an undesirable behavior and you want to get a desirable behavior in play, there's no better thing than a good incentive, a good fair measurement, and you see the change, you reward, and hopefully that good behavior repeats.
Very interesting. And we will make sure that they never hear this episode so that the cat is not out of the bag. But you mentioned something there, and that's the good, fair measurement, because really that is what so much of this whole deal of really helping people understand what success is. Right. That's what the whole KPI idea is. What is it really that defines success? If you're doing this job well, what does it look like? And when there isn't clarity about that, I think that's just having the clarity already brings so much more of the best out of people.
Clarity and consistency.
Yes.
And engagement in setting those goals and in helping
ownership,
people determine what is fair.
Yes.
I mean, for one person, this is fair. For the other person, no, this is more fair. And then having that discussion so that when you agree on a set of fair rules, one then is able to get much greater buy-in and much greater level of success.
That's tremendous. That is a powerful, powerful insight to hold on to. Now, we've talked a little bit about your book, and there was a really thought-provoking incident that inspired your book. You had an insight that made you see it's time to write. And that was quite a few years ago, and it took a while before the book came out. Would you like to share with us a bit of that story?
Oh, I was going through my midlife, turning 50 crisis, and instead of wanting to go and buy a sports car, well, I always want to buy sports cars. I don't have one at the moment, but there are more important things than sports cars. But I had this maybe an existential crisis. I had this feeling that, I was coming, I might even die. And in order to pass on a legacy to my boys, that I better write some of my things down that's important to me. And that's really what got me going. Thankfully, I'm still here, and I really don't have that feeling anymore. I would, so I'm glad about that. But the outcome is that I have a book.
Yeah, you've got a book, and it makes such a great read, because the beautiful experience about this book is it's the business lessons, but it's the story, and then it's the business lessons and it's the story. So it's a very digestible way to take in that kind of information in a practical setting, but at the same time, just really have a good read. So it was a nice balance for me, because I know I need the business lessons, but I'd way rather read a story. So check both the boxes and got it cleared for me. Yeah, and as you heard, I just raced straight through. Like, what's going to happen? And the punchline is, what's going to happen is there's another book coming. So David, we're watching out for that. Now that you've got this one out, where you're looking for the sequel. That is awesome. And you've also been speaking on stages for a very, very long time as the president of SITE. And you're going to remind us, I've got that here, the Society for Incentive Travel Excellence. You've been a president bringing people together from around the world. You've worked with the Incentive Marketing Association, the IMEX, the Import and Export Worldwide Exhibition for travel and meetings and events. And all of these have been almost a platform for going to talk about the work that you do. So you're an old hand at speaking, but you have been stepping onto more stages with a bigger message. And very soon you've got a keynote coming up. Would you like to tell us about that and what you'll be speaking about and what you speak about from the stage?
I think, first of all, I mean, my career has had this incredible global feel to it always, because of our travel business that's helped me get all over the world with our clients and become known as a buyer of international travel destinations. And of course, that's been a tremendously enriching thing for me as a human being, being able to travel and experience other cultures and destinations, and the other way those people do things differently to the way we would has been tremendous. And I certainly would encourage anybody in the entrepreneurial space, no matter how big or small your business is, to find some international association or international trade show or event that speaks specifically into your space, and register and spend the money and go and get a network that's international as well as a local network. Because that really gives you incredible insights to what's happening around the world, and you can spot an idea, bring it back here, monetize it. And you don't have to always be coming up with the great ideas. You can be innovating together with ideas and localizing them, and that can be a real innovation platform. So, yeah, I think speaking really came as a result of sitting on an international board, where part of that is advocating for our global industry. Global incentive industry around the world is worth trillions of dollars, and all the Fortune 500 companies and many others use incentives and incentive rewards to forward their business objectives. So yeah, I've been so fortunate. The first time I spoke on an international platform, I couldn't stop shaking. My knees were clanging together, my hands were, I had to hold on to something, and it still is intimidating, to be honest, to get onto stage and talk to an audience and deliver a good message.
Nobody who's seen you on stage would believe that, but I'll try and believe you.
Yeah, and some of my most memorable moments have been where done something and you thought, oh, and maybe it didn't go as well as I wanted, but somebody comes up to you afterwards and says, wow, it was amazing, and I learned so much, and this and that, and gee, so it's always when you get the opportunity to talk, I always think of it as an opportunity to share some of the cool stuff that I've had experience with, and because it might just help somebody in a tiny way. And if that helps somebody in a tiny way, what have we done? We've empowered somebody to get onto the next step of their journey. And so for me, I would really like to do more of that, but not to become famous or world-renowned, or but to really give from my heart to people that are willing to listen, and hopefully empower, inspire, and help people along the way.
Well, having listened to you, I can attest to the fact that you have a strong message to share and you've got great information behind it. But the big thing is you're so real on the stage that people, it's like there isn't a distance, there isn't that here is the expert speaker on the stage and I'm far away. You really speak to people as if it's a personal conversation. It's just happening from the stage, and it's really a delight to share in that. So I really hope to see you on many more stages. And then finally, David, because I could keep you here for a long time still, but I see our time is running out. Your big vision, and this is specifically for the League of Visionaries podcast. Visionaries listening to this, you've had a big vision that keeps you going, and this keep winning philosophy of yours is about a lot more than just a business that wins. It really reaches much further. Would you like to close up for us with what it is that drives your vision and your work?
Well, the drive, I think, comes from knowing my truth. I know what it's like to be hit by life and being right at the bottom. I know what it's like to stand on the summit, and I know what it's like in every facet, and I'm so grateful for those experiences. So, but I know that I'm best at doing this, and I think that's what drives me to want to keep doing it and keep helping people win helping businesses win. I love business. Business is such a fascinating arena. It occupies so much of people's time, and there's so many diverse fields of specialization within the business context. But the human context dynamic, which is the specialty space that I focus in, I really believe that we're good at that. I really believe what we offer as solutions are exceptionally powerful. They're not going out of fashion. It's not a buzzword that's in today, gone tomorrow. You know, what we do works. So I'm very fortunate to be in that space. Obviously, that space evolves and develops, and we're continuously learning and improving. And as we collaborate with other players in that space as well, that's a tremendous opportunity for us to build bigger impact, is through collaboration. And my dream still is to reach many people. So I think through our 30 years of business, I haven't a scientific count, but I know that we've reached millions of people, and we've made an impact on millions of people's lives over that span of time. I would really love to think so much bigger and to be able to impact 1 billion people in my lifetime, my working career time, whether that be through my book, the book, the speaking, the business, it's the reward platforms. I'm talking about the collective impact. Sure, I'd like to make money, but that's not the main driver. Focus on what you're passionate about, and the money follows. I really believe that. Yeah, so that's where I'd like to end it.
That is beautiful. David Sand, what a pleasure having you on the League of Visionaries podcast. Thank you so much for your time. I wish you so much success with Uwin Iwin, with your book, Song of the Sandman, that went straight to the top of several categories on Amazon within a week. That's really phenomenal. Congratulations. Wow. And may there be many more. Yes. And with your speaking. And the last thing I can say is just keep winning, right?
Thank you. Thank you. And you keep winning too. I hope your podcast keeps winning, and I'm looking forward to hearing this playback.
You've been listening to the League of Visionaries podcast by Yazi Media, proudly brought to you by Totally Morpheus. Subscribe to the League of Visionaries podcast here on your favorite podcasting platform, and follow Yazi Media on LinkedIn to find out more about how you can share your visionary message with the world. If you are a visionary, chances are you are also a leader. But what is your current leadership state? The way you are leading right now, your default setting, if you will. The EG3 Leadership Assessment helps you to understand the way you lead, your strengths, and your potential challenges as a leader. And most importantly, how to create your unique leadership legacy. It's fast, it's fun, it's free. It's the EG3 Leadership Assessment from Totally Morpheus. And when you take this assessment, you will get an instant report right away, pointing the way to your living leadership legacy. Find the EG3 Leadership Assessment now at totallymorpheus.com.